All right, guys, a big welcome to this Pixie webinar. Thank you so much for joining. I know how busy you all are, so we really appreciate you setting aside some time for us here today. Today, we're going to be talking all about how to optimize your Pixie workspace to really further benefit from some of those efficiencies that you might not have yet tapped into. So many of our customers tell us that they love Pixie, but they know that they can be getting more from it. And that's what this webinar is going to be all about today. Whilst I might talk specifically about UK personal tax returns, please bear in mind that a lot of these principles are quite general and can be used across a variety of services that you might provide. We're not going to be talking extreme basics today. If you're still in the process of getting Pixie set up for the first time, I'd probably recommend our new self-paced Academy course, but don't worry, we'll provide lots of additional resources after this webinar so that you can get set up for success. So a little bit of information about me before we get started, guys. My name is Dominic Busby. I'm the customer success lead here at Pixie. I'm an AAT qualified accounts technician, and I've provided a variety of services to clients in the UK, including bookkeeping, payroll, tax, and advisory services. I spent 3.5 years at Xero, where I worked as a practice consultant, where I worked with firms of all sorts of different sizes, helping them implement tools and technology. Today, we're going to be talking about your challenges as a firm, looking at how Pixie can directly help you tackle those challenges. And then what I want to do is give you guys a peek at what your new world could look like. Then, if you like what we see, we're going to talk about how you can actually achieve this in the day-to-day running of your practice. And of course, guys, if you've got any questions as we're going along, please feel free to use the Q&A box, and we've got some time in at the end to go back and make sure that we answer every single question. No such thing as a silly question today. Okay, so only by acknowledging our challenges as a collective group can we really all commit to change with the same outlook. And that goes across everyone in your practice. Everyone needs to know what the end goal is and what that vision is so that you can all make sure that you implement those changes effectively. So let's run through some of the common challenges and themes that we know we have in practice. So receiving and providing information to and from all of those clients and at the right time. This can be a big challenge. We know how difficult it can be to get clients to send you what you need in order to get that job done. So we're going to talk about how Pixie's going to help us with that today. Keeping track of how all of our tasks are progressing across the firm, being able to know what's outstanding, how many returns have I completed so far, and just getting that overview of where we're at. This is one I'm sure we've all experienced, that manic rush as the deadlines close in. That could be a VAT deadline, it could be a personal tax deadline in the UK, it could be 1099s in the US, it could be corporation tax deadlines, it could be anything. But we all know that clients can make it very, very difficult to meet those deadlines in time. And of course, with that comes responding to all of those queries. And again, that could be absolutely anything. It could be a regular payroll query, or it could be the information about the latest government guidance around furlough or something like that. We saw a lot of that in the recent times. And of course, losing time chasing clients and carrying out menial tasks, which we know could be automated. Before we move on, I just want to run a very quick poll just to hear from you guys. I want to hear what you found to be the biggest challenge, or what's your biggest challenge across the firm. 2 questions to this, guys. We want to know how you found your last tax and deadline season, and I want to know what your biggest challenge is. And of course, the biggest challenge section is multiple choice, so just select every single challenge that you have across the firm. Hopefully you'll be able to see the results. I will let you know kind of what the general theme is that we're seeing across the board. Just going to give you guys a few more seconds to get a few more results in. Good to see that for the most part, last tax season, you guys are saying that it wasn't too bad. 44% not too bad, 39% stressful, and 12% don't even go there. All right, hopefully you guys are going to really benefit from today. That 12%, like, this is what today's all about. It's about trying to take those pain points away from the everyday managing of your practice and using Pixie effectively to mitigate these challenges. 27% of you said the biggest challenges were the manic rush. 80% getting clients to give you what you need. Don't worry, guys, I know the feeling. We're going to talk today about how we can use automated reminders and things like that to get the clients, whipped into shape, so to speak. 27% responding to queries, 27% again, knowing where you're at across the firm. So being able to see what you've completed so far and how far you've got to go. And 29% of you think you're spending too much time doing menial tasks. So thank you so much for your participation, guys. It really, really is. It makes these webinars a lot easier to sort of know where you guys are at and be able to direct our messaging accordingly. So thank you so much for your participation. Let's look at the benefits of using Pixie effectively. We're going to get through this section quite fast because what I want to do is actually show you something tangible. I want to be able to show you what Pixie could look like for you so that you can actually make that decision about whether or not you want to go ahead and further spend time implementing these processes. So the benefits are going to be quite clear. It's going to give your client a better experience because by using Pixie effectively, it's going to allow you to be proactive and provide the clear guidance at the right time to the right clients. It's also going to give you a quicker turnaround time of those queries, and hopefully, because of the point above, there'll be less of them. But also by benefiting from Pixie's email integration and keeping those queries directly linked to the appropriate task, it means that all of your correspondence with each client is going to be really transparent. So it allows you to quickly, as a manager, get into the query, understand where it's at, and move a job along. We're going to be sending out automated emails as soon as jobs are triggered in Pixie. So we're going to cover that today. We're going to talk about how you can send out bulk emails as well whenever you choose. So not just automated emails, but being able to send out targeted emails to certain clients. We're going to talk about how to set up automatic reminders to keep those clients on track for the ones that haven't yet sent us that information. And this is something that a lot of you may not already do, but we're going to talk about how you can incorporate custom client fields to include information in automatic reminders that get sent out. And that could be VAT payments, corporation tax, it could be payroll liability reminders, or it could be personal tax or 1099 tax payments that need to be made following the filings. And lastly, of course, all of this is going to make it easier for the client as well. And I know that's such an important theme at the moment about really focusing and drilling down on what a good client experience looks like. Okay, now you might be thinking, all right, Dom, that sounds great, but how? And I'm going to show you some screenshots and some short videos that I've made today so that you can see with your own eyes exactly what this new world might look like. Then if you like what we see, we're going to talk about how you can go ahead and make that happen. But first off, let's talk about nailing the basics. So some really simple things you can implement in Pixie right away, such as label management. Now, this might seem obvious, but for me, traffic works really well. You always know where you stand with the traffic light. You don't often sit there parked at a green light. And I bet most of you can probably count the amount of times that you've ran a red light with one hand, hopefully. It's visual and you can see where you're at to keep work flowing effectively. So whatever your system is, you've got to have one, you've got to stick with it, and you've all got to make the effort to use it. Here on the right-hand side, I can see green to show me tasks that I can work on right away in Pixie. Yellow indicates something that is stalling and I might need to check out as a manager. And red is where I'm waiting for the client. And Pixie's automatically going to keep those jobs moving with my automated reminders, and I can simply ignore those for now. Let's have a look at that in practice on a simple to-do list. Suddenly, it's a lot easier for me to know where I need to spend my time. And bear in mind, guys, that you can filter out specific jobs in Pixie as well. So these same principles can be applied not only to my own to-do list, but to all the jobs across the firm. So now I can go and look at all of the personal tax jobs here. I can see which ones I can work on right away with those green lights. I can see which ones are stalled that I might need to investigate, and that might be as an individual or as a manager reviewing the work across the firm. And again, I can see I can see a job there that needs to be reviewed. So as a manager, I know I can filter out all the work that I need to review, and I can get across all of that nice and quickly. Another basic tip for you is to create some custom fields, and these could relate to specific services you provide. So in this example, what I've done is I've set up three really important key fields for me that relate to my personal tax returns. One is whether or not I provide that service to the client. The second one is whether or not I've completed that service for the client. And the third is what that payment of account amount is going to be, whatever is due. And that is for the payment that's due on the 31st of July following my filing, which is due on the 31st of January. And I'm going to show you how this can be included later on in your automated reminders to not only provide a better client experience, but to make your life easier as well. You can also benefit from our latest release of client field grouping to help keep your workspace clean and organized. In the bottom right hand corner, you can see that I've created a section which is relevant to just the personal tax return information for the individuals that I serve as clients. And that just enables me to keep my client database really clean and tidy. Okay, so I want to show you guys a quick video about how you can use client filters effectively. So first off, if you didn't already know, in the top right hand corner of the client menu, you can save as many custom filters as you like. Here I'm selecting a bunch of individual client types, and I'm choosing to update that service provided field in bulk to yes across all of those clients. That enables me then to filter out the clients whereby I provide that service for them. So I'm going to scroll down, find my personal tax service provided field. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that filter to make it really, really easy for me to find that information whenever I need it. I can now select all of my personal tax clients, and I can do a few things here. I can send out emails, I can schedule future work. So what I'm going to do is I've created a personal tax return end-to-end process, which is something we'll share with you later on. I can now enable that for all my personal tax clients, which is a workflow that I've scheduled to trigger in May. And I'm also going to do the exact same process to turn on my automated reminders for that same group of clients. And those are going to be monthly reminders that start from June every single month, chasing those clients for that information, which we know is the biggest challenge that you guys have identified for us today. The next thing I'm going to do is create another filter. And this time I'm going to create a filter for the clients whereby I provide this service for them, but I've not yet completed this work, which in this case is still every single client. And I'm going to save this one as outstanding tax return jobs. Same principles will apply to 1099s in the US. Even though I'm talking specifically about the UK today, all of these methods are going to be useful across the board. And what that enables me to now do is filter out my outstanding jobs. And if I want to, I can send out a bulk email to them at any point. Say I want to push this, I don't know, it's getting towards Christmas, and I want to try and push as many of these jobs through as possible so that I don't give myself a really stressful January. That's how I can do that. And I'm going to show you how those client fields will be updated as we progress with the relevant jobs shortly. But first, let's look at a typical process for a bunch of personal tax returns and how we might handle that in Pixie. And remember, again, there's going to be a lot of common themes here across the board. For some of us, we might have only just recovered from the previous tax returns that we last processed, but everything kicks off again next month. So on the screen here on the left-hand side, we can see everything that needs to be done before we can even begin processing a job for a client. And I'm going to automate all of this using my Pixie setup. So this is all done for me. So on the 5th of April, which is the end of the personal tax year in the UK, all of these jobs are triggered for me in Pixie across my individuals. The first email is automatically sent out to the client, letting them know that it's the end of the tax year, providing them any relevant information, any changes the government might have made, letting me know what type of information I need back from them. Monthly reminders are then automatically going to be sent out to that client until they give me what I need from them. And then lastly, the client's going to upload whatever it is that I've requested and provide all the relevant information. There's two ways to handle this in Pixie, and we're going to cover both in the next few slides. But all of this needs to be done before I can even begin doing the job. And all of this part here is going to be automated through the implementation of Pixie. Next, we have the actual doing the work. And this is where task management comes into play. There's a few things I need to do. I need to review the information the client sent me. I need to raise any queries with the client. And it's really important that you do this directly from the task within Pixie. And I'm going to show you why later on. We then need to complete the tax return. You might want to do an internal sign-off. If you do, simply reassign the task to a manager or a reviewer, or you can add a label to specify that this job needs to be reviewed, which means you wouldn't even need to reassign it, because from the work report, you'll be able to find those jobs that need to be reviewed. Lastly, we're going to file and notify the client. And what's really important is, as we move this job through the various stages, we need to update the respective task labels. If we don't do that, we won't have that overview. We will never have the ability to run a report to show us where the jobs are at across the firm. And that's really, really important. Finally, there's an automated payment reminder, which is going to be sent out in July, letting the client know what their payment of account amount is. Okay, now I mentioned the choice. You've got two different ways of providing a service at scale in Pixie. And that's whether you want to use the client task method or just communicate and request information via an automated email with a document request link. Both methods have their own advantages and disadvantages. Some of you may not even know what the client task feature is. It's that little tab within the task that says client task on it. And if you're wondering what this is, it's effectively a client portal that you can use to create and share an open task with the client. And in that portal, both you and the client can upload files, chat via a chat box, read information, and the client can tick off items and then instruct their accountant or bookkeeper when they've finished with that portal. Let's have a quick look at that now. So here's the client task tab just within the job itself. What you want to do is copy and paste information from the actual task template you've created across into that client task tab, like so. You just want to quickly copy and paste that in, give that a save, and that can now be sent out to the client. What this is just various information that I need from the client, a few tick boxes to specify what type of income they've had across the year, and I'm going to send that out to the client. And when I do that, I can set up an automated reminder. You've got up to 4 automated reminders can be sent out at whatever cadence you choose. So in this example, I'm going to go with every 30 days. So until the client marks this task portal is done, every 30 days, Pixie's automatically going to nudge them to go in and give them to complete this task. This is password protected. So what I'd recommend doing, first step in the process, is sending out an automated email just to let them know that you're going to open up a portal for them. They'll receive a separate email and what their password's going to be to access that portal. I'd recommend keeping it really simple and using something like their date of birth, because that way you can quickly set up the passwords across all of your client base, and you don't have to customize these emails to have each client's separate password on. Now, the advantage of this method is it's password protected, which means the client can continue to revisit this portal whenever they need, and it has those automated reminders. Now, this part's really important because the automated reminders is relevant, because if you're going to use this method, then you have no need to set up any additional automated reminders outside of this workflow, as the client task does this for us. Another point to mention is some firms will incorporate their own custom form into this portal, which could be something like a Google form or a Jot form. And this is just so that you can specify only the information that's relevant to each client. So, i.e., the client, there'll be a question that says, do you have dividend income of over £4,000 in this tax year? And if they answer yes, it will let the client know what they need to provide, and they can then upload that into the portal. Okay, disadvantages. So currently each client task has to be created manually. It's not massively time consuming. It's probably going to take less than a minute to open up each portal. So if you've got, let's say you've got 100 jobs across 100 different clients, it might take you an hour and a half just to set that up. And this is a once a year exercise. So we're not talking massive amounts of time here. But the benefit of doing that is all the information is going to be in one place for your client. They'll be automatically reminded that they need to still, provide this information to you, and you can handle all of your queries right from within these portals by using that chat box. And every time the client asks a question, you'll receive an email notification to prompt you to go in and answer it. Once the task is completed, again, you'll receive a notification and you know it's ready to be picked up and processed. Now, if you did want a fully automated approach, then a simple email might do the trick, and that will just have a document upload link in it, and that might be your preferred choice. Let's have a look at the client task method from start to finish. So here we are, here's the client task method. The first step is the automated email that gets sent out to the client. By default, this label of waiting for client info is already on this task, and that's set up at the task template level. The next step is to go ahead and open up the client portal by copy and pasting my template information across. This one's already been done for me and I've already sent the email out. Next, mark that as done. The next thing that's going to happen is the client's going to go in and complete the portal, providing me with all the information I need, which will prompt me to come in and start processing this job. So I'm going to update the task label from waiting for client info to records received. And we start going through my tick list internally of what I need to do. Sending any queries to clients directly from the task. This part's really important because what it means is any communications that I have to or from the client are going to be stored against the job. Any files are going to be automatically logged against the job. And of course, I can leave any notes for anybody else right there on the notes tab. I did that last part really fast, but what I was doing is just clicking into the client record to say that this job's been complete. And as you can see, that's something that takes me just a second. Something as simple as that can become a really powerful tool for me later on. This next part is an internal deadline of the 8th of November, which is an internal goal that I'm aiming towards to have this personal tax return completed by. And the email you see on the screen there is just a final follow-up, a final reminder. But in this case, I don't need it as the client's done exactly what I need in time. I can then get the job, the personal tax return signed off from within Pixie using the document signing add-on to keep everything in one place. Nice and straightforward. As soon as that's done, I'll be notified. And again, that feature's got automated reminders on it for me. Last thing I'm doing here is just going back into the tax return, into the client record and entering whatever the POA amount is for that client. That stands for payment on account, and that's a payment that's due on the 31st of July following the filing of this tax return. And that part's going to be really useful because it's going to feed into my payment reminders that get sent out automatically in July. Finally, I'm just going to send an email to the client letting them know that this personal tax return's been filed, and I'll need to let them know whether or not there's a refund or a payment that they need to make. So I'm just going to go in and enter some basic information into this email, which is just going to take me a little moment. Any information that I know I need to input manually is in bold to draw my attention to it so that I can go and punch those figures in and then just get this done and dusted as quickly as possible. It's worth pointing out that because I've got a payment of account field completed for the client, there is actually a few opportunities to put in a few more placeholders into this email. Me being a perfectionist, I'm always looking at where I can try and save time. Ideally, you'd all have all of this information included into your template already. But what I'm looking to do here is let them know what the payment of account amount is going to be due on the 31st of July. And again, that amount of £1,050 could be put in via a placeholder. And I'm also letting them know what the balancing payment that is due on the 31st of January is, which includes any previous amendment plus 50% of that payment of account amount. What's really important, as I was progressing through this task, I went through it super quick, but in real time, this job would be getting, perhaps maybe going back to the traffic light system, there'd be a couple of yellow lights. Okay, so a few intervals, this task may be slightly held up. And it's just really important that as I'm progressing through that task, that I continue to use my label system, because that allows you to have that overview across the whole firm of where those jobs are at, and it allows managers to go in, it allows people to spend time chasing queries, it allows managers to go in and see what needs to be reviewed, and it will let you know exactly how many jobs you've got on and where you're at. Now, let's look at the email method. This one's going to be a lot shorter. It's very similar, so I'm not going to go into as much detail, but let's just compare that. I just want to give you both the options so you guys can make the decision as to what method would work best for you. So in this email method, so we're not going to use the client task, and it's just, I'm going to provide all the information to the client via an automated email, and there's going to be an upload, a secure upload link here that the client can use to drop off anything that I need. Some firms, again, going back to that example of the form, might just send out a form to the client. And so this email becomes a very, very short and simple email that just says, it's the end of the tax year. If you're unsure if you need to file a personal tax return, please see below. And here's what I need from you. Fill out this form and then upload any files here. Now, what's then going to happen is it's going to go into the yellow light. The automated reminders are going to take over. Once I've received the client information, I need to come in here into the client record, and this is where I have a personal tax reminder set up. So I'm just going to turn that off, because as soon as I've received the information from the client, I no longer need to send them a reminder. So I'm going to turn the reminder off, and I'm going to update the task label on the job to show that I've received the records from the client. Again, I have a deadline date and a final warning email template. I can ignore this in this instance. Next, I'm going to work through all my internal jobs. And I really want to point this part out to you because it's vitally important that you send any queries directly from within the task. And you can do that using that little email icon up in the top right. And that just means all of the email correspondence in relation to that job is going to be logged in the task. And that's one of the beautiful things about Pixie. It's really transparent. Anyone can come in and take over this job. A manager can come in at any point and review this job, and they'll be able to see all of the communication with the client. They'll be able to review all of the files that have been sent to and from the client, and they'll be able to review the notes. From here, the rest is exactly the same. So I've got a payment of account amount, want to finish, that I want to enter into the client record, which is going to feed into my automatic payment reminder. The final step here is completely optional. It depends on your internal processes and how you bill clients. But if you need to raise an invoice for them once you finish that task, then you might decide to have maybe a task label that says ready for invoicing. Maybe the admin team then go through the workflow report, the work report, and they'll identify which jobs they need to go and invoice clients for. What I'm showing you here is the payment of account payment reminder for July. So this is sent out. Currently it's configured to go out on the 25th. It's a simple automated email that just says, just a friendly reminder to let you know your self-assessment tax return payment is due on the 31st of July, and that payment amount will be, and that is getting pulled through from the client record, from that client field we created earlier. Okay, and that's something that could be used for anything. It could be used to remind a limited company when their corporation, what the corporation tax payment is, and it could go out, I don't know, perhaps maybe a month before that payment is due. It could be used the same for VAT, it could be the same for payroll. There are a lot of use cases. So what I really wanted to point out to you today is sometimes by creating a client field, it can be a really effective way to send out customized, automated information to clients at the right time. Right. Now, everything we've looked at so far, specifically labels and raising queries directly from a task, is going to allow you to do this. So we're going to take a quick look at the work report. So if I go into the team tab, you'll see there's a work report option. And this is going to give me information across all the jobs on across the whole firm. So not just my tasks, but everybody in the team. I can filter this out by different types of jobs and different labels. So here's an example. I can just identify the jobs whereby we've raised queries and that they might need chasing. I'm going to click into a job review the note that's been left there, and I can see that the mortgage statement that they provided wasn't for the correct period. I can then look into the email tab. I can review all the communication with the client, and I can find that this client has actually responded with what I needed. It's visible from the Files tab, and I can preview those documents, and via looking at the source column, I can see whether they've sent a file via the client task portal or through an email. I can now update the status from queries raised back to records received. So this is going back to the green light status. And if I needed to, for whatever reason, I could reassign this to somebody else in the team so that it gets done today. So as a manager, I can go in, I can look at all of the work across the firm, identify what's at yellow light, what's currently in a query status, investigate those queries, identify the jobs that actually could be moved along, or I could chase the client. And then if they need to be updated, I can update them and reassign them. Now, this report also shows completed dates for all of your previous work. So if you wanted to, you could export it out to do some further analysis. You might want to put it into Excel, make a pivot table, put together some fancy graphs, showing you how many returns you've completed in each month of the year to be able to see the difference that the new process has made. Right. Okay. So that's it in theory. Hopefully there were some useful tips in there for you. What we're going to do is send out a useful guide full of tips and resources to cover everything we've seen today. And that's going to start right from getting your client data into Pixie to getting this complete process implemented from end to end. We're going to have the workflow templates that we've seen today for both the client task method and the email method available, and we'll send those across to you so you can import them straight into your workspace. And this is something that you can get set up and ready to go for the 5th of April in the UK, right? So you've got next week. So hopefully you've seen enough to make you think, yeah, actually, we do have these big problems. We could do something about it. And I'm going to follow this guide to make sure that this year is better than any other year we've ever had. And that's what I really wanted to get out today. I wanted you to see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Things can be better, and I want to help you get there. So you'll find everything you need in the guide to get that set up successfully in probably just a matter of hours, guys. I would estimate getting this whole process implemented from start to finish, you're looking at about 3 to 4 hours. So half a day. Half a day can make a difference to your entire year. Hopefully some of you will benefit from this. And again, if you're in the US, you might not have the same deadlines, but you'll be able to still review the guide, maybe look back at the recording of this webinar today, and maybe identify a few small areas that you can improve in for your 1099s and other services that you provide. So let's do some Q&A. So if you've got any questions, please put them in the Q&A box, and we'll get through them all as quickly as we can. So yeah, this webinar will be recorded. So once you'll receive a full recording of the webinar, it might be slightly edited to cut out some of my stutters. But yeah, we'll share around the recording after the webinar today, guys, so that you can share everything with the team. Brightly Mulcaird asked, "What's the purple traffic light stand for?" Yeah, fair enough. You don't see many traffic lights with a purple light, and if you did, you're probably bit confused. And for me, that just stands out as something a bit different. So I've got my standard green, yellow, red, and the purple is just anything else that I want to draw my attention to. And I think I used it for outsourced work in that example. Georgina asked, if I send out bulk emails, will this BCC other clients? No, it will not. The email will look as if it's being delivered from your normal email provider, and clients won't be able to see that it's been sent to multiple people. So it will have that look and feel as if it's an individual unique email that's been sent to them. Yes, good question. Someone asked, how will I reset that client field? The second one I had was whether or not I'd completed that job. How do I reset it for the next year? You're quite right. That isn't automatic. So what you would do is you can do it in bulk really easily from the client tab. So I'd filter out my personal tax clients, select them all, and then I'd go to bulk update property, and I'd go personal tax return completed equals no. So it will just take me a second or two, and I'll just reset it every year as soon as the next tax year comes to a close. Don't worry, I think our guide has got the full process end to end. So there's a few small details that I haven't touched on today, just purely because of time. And hopefully the guide will answer all your questions. But great question. Somebody asked, how do you, they haven't yet done the certification, so that's the new Pixie Academy. Does it show you how to create custom field groups? Yes, it does. The Academy course is really good, guys. If you've not yet set Pixie up and you're just starting out, I'd really recommend clicking up in that help section in the top right hand corner of your Pixie workspace and go into the Academy. From there, you can complete a self-paced course full of videos showing you absolutely everything you need to know to get Pixie set up successfully. Okay, it doesn't look like we're getting any further questions coming through. Of course, guys, if anything comes to mind after the webinar, please do reach out either via the chat box or reach out to your customer success manager. But all that's left to say is, thank you so much for joining us here today, guys. Really appreciate your time. I hope everything we've touched on today is going to save you a ton of time. And I hope everybody's at least taking away something, whether large or small, that's going to make a difference to running their practice. We'll be sending out all of the resources I've mentioned shortly, so keep an eye out for those. But for now, goodbye, and we look forward to speaking to you all in the near future.